At Church Army, we know the role that good leadership plays in helping others develop confidence in their leadership. And we also know that learning to be a leader is an ongoing process, and that whether we're new or experienced leaders, we all benefit from constantly developing ourselves and watching ourselves and others grow. That's why we developed LEAD, a suite of learning resources to help you and those you lead on your leadership journey. Designed for anyone who has a leadership role, whether that's paid or as a volunteer. Whether you're leading a new team or project, or a leader training other leaders, LEAD learning resources are designed to help you and those you lead grow in the areas most important to your role. Each of the individual 5 core modules gives you opportunities for individual feedback on your leadership and support from a lead coach, flexible learning content which you can tailor to your individual learning needs, opportunities for personal reflection and taking practical action in your leadership context. And we'll connect you to other leaders through our action learning groups. To make LEAD as accessible as possible, you can sign up to individual modules or sessions to suit you and your learning needs.
As part of LEAD, you will be sent weekly learning material, which offers a range of content for you to choose from. You can tailor your learning to fit your own context in a way that helps you to get the most out of LEAD. LEAD is all about reflecting with others and agreeing to take action. This is why the weekly learning material works best hand in hand with action learning. In action learning groups, you can apply what you are learning to real-life situations and find out how others are doing the same. You will meet a variety of people to learn from. Some might be leading a team or a project for the first time, whilst others might have years of experience. Connecting with other leaders in these groups helps to shape your learning experience. Through coaching and connecting with other leaders, as well as flexible and practical resources, LEAD will help you develop your leadership potential and the potential in others.
Hi, I'm Kinder. I'm the lead evangelist for the Attercliffe and Darnall Centre of Mission in Sheffield. Me and education have got an interesting relationship, more like a love-hate thing. So when I was asked to look at the LEAD program, it sort of pushed a load of emotions in me, and some were quite hard. But what I quickly found was it was just amazing. Being with other people on a week-to-week basis, just learning from each other's experience, was actually such a joy. The best bit was the variety. I struggle in certain places, so when you had a choice of 4 different ways of learning that week, I never read the brief, I did all 4, and when I got to the session, I was very much, you just needed to do the one, not all 4. But what I found was, I got more and more, I actually did all 4 for all of the weeks. I was actually amazed that someone who doesn't like study got more and more involved. And I think the key thing is I'm a fixer. I want to just fix problems. And what LEAD taught me was about how to ask the right questions. How do we get someone else to, from a question, to look for themselves, insights, learnings, and hopefully solutions. And people likewise did that with me. They asked a question that someone else may not have asked, which then got me thinking in a whole different way. I just found, overall, it was just an amazing space to learn with others and improve your leadership.
Hi, I'm just going to interrupt you there, Jane. You're muted. So if you want to unmute and just go back to the beginning.
Thanks, Beth.
That's okay.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our special LEAD live Q&A session. We're thrilled you can join us, especially Beth. I'm really thrilled she was here. And please let us know where you're coming from today in the chat. You can also post any questions that you have throughout the event. I'm Jane Elliott. I'm the Leadership Development Officer for Church Army. You'd think after 2 years in a pandemic, I'd have learned how to unmute. I moved back to Sheffield at the end of 2019, and I started this new role in January 2020. So it's been an interesting transition into a new role. Prior to coming to Church Army, I'd been involved in working with missional communities and evangelism with marginalised groups for over 25 years. So I use this experience to shape how we develop LEAD, our new learning resources for growing leaders. I'm really thrilled that we're joined this lunchtime by Karen Webb, lead evangelist for our North Belfast Centre of Mission, and Beth Burrows, formation lead for our initial training for evangelists, both of whom have been part of our LEAD pilot. We'll be hearing from Karen first in a minute about her experiences of being part of a LEAD Action Learning Group. Here at Church Army, we recognise our evangelists are employed a long way from their families or home churches. So we wanted to develop LEAD as a supportive online community and ensure they had the opportunities to connect with others and explore some of those challenges with others. Personally, I've always been impressed with how Jesus took his motley crew of disciples and over the course of 3 years trained them to continue his ministry after he left them. As I reread the accounts of Jesus's ministry in the Gospels, I was struck by how often he asked people questions instead of giving them answers. And that's what inspired me to use a form of action learning which we adapted to suit the LEAD learning environment. And I think Will's got an action learning slide to show us, which explains the process. So yeah, LEAD creates an environment. Action learning is rooted in asking questions and then identifying actions that we want to take. So yeah, we ask questions, identify actions, we reflect on having taken the action, and then we always kind of do a review of the process at the end of each session. And at the end of each module, we'll also celebrate all the learning that's taken place. So, Karen, I'm so pleased you could join us today. You joined us initially from Church Army as a volunteer, then as lead evangelist for North Belfast Centre of Mission. Yeah, so tell us why you signed up for Lead and how you found being part of an action learning group. And also, go on.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Lovely to be with you all today. I first really came across, I suppose, the whole idea of reflecting when I worked with an evangelist in Lisburn. And at the end of everything we did, he would say, right, how could we have done that better? And I never wanted to answer those questions because I was like, no, we've done it. It was good. Let's not analyze it. Let's just move on. So when the opportunity came up and I saw Lead, this was after my Church Army training, and I thought, I really want to continue challenging myself to analyse and to actually ask those difficult questions. Some of them are not that difficult, but I want to keep doing that. And so when Lead came along, I signed up for it.
Excellent. And what do you think you gained from being part of the Action Learning Group?
Well, I gained new friends, actually, so that was lovely. And obviously we did it all on Zoom, and it was great just being able to connect with people across the UK and Ireland. But as well, I found that it gave me a tool for using in not only my work, actually, but I'm a mum of 2 girls in their late 20s, and I found myself starting to use what I was learning in action learning with them. It didn't always go down well because sometimes they were ringing me to say, look, Mum, I want your advice. And I would then start asking them questions to try and get them to come to the conclusion themselves. And they were like, Mom, I just want you to tell me what to do. And I said, yes, but long term, I want you to know how to answer these things for yourself. And so I think for me, it was really interesting to see how that worked, not just in my leadership, but also in other aspects of my life. And I think too, as a lead evangelist and working with volunteers and other employees, it's so important to be able to listen, but to actively listen to one another, but also to be able to have that skill of asking the right question, which is going to help somebody come to a conclusion for themselves and to actually seek out the answer themselves.
That's great, Karen. Yes. And I mean, you enjoyed it so much, you then agreed to become a lead facilitator. So what is it that you enjoyed about doing that?
Well, I think it was, and I'll give you an example. I was talking in one of our sessions, and each of us would bring something that perhaps we wanted, a real life situation that we wanted help with. And at the time I was reflecting and thinking about church and where we would worship, my husband and I. And I had brought that because it was something that I was thinking about and praying about. And someone in the group asked a brilliant question. And they just said to me, Karen, what 3 things are you looking for? What 3 things are you looking for in a spiritual home?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of sat back and thought, wow, gosh. And now they said, we're not expecting you to answer that question now, but actually I've reflected on that. Now that was about a year ago, and I'm still reflecting on that. What do I want from a spiritual home? But instead of telling me, oh, you should do this or you could do that, the question prompted my thinking. So I thought this is such a useful tool, and it's so helpful for people. It's not something I naturally enjoy doing, and I do struggle at times to ask the right question because everything in me wants to give advice. But actually, what I want to do is to help people long term and to help people to get to those conclusions themselves. And I think it is appropriate at times just to say, in my experience, this is what I did. But I think it's much, much long term more helpful when we say, get those questions right, that we're able to ask someone something that prompts them to think through. And I know for me, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, when we were working together, one of the things that I loved hearing was if I managed to ask a question and the other person said, do you know, that's a really helpful question, I'd be like, yay. So, but it's something that I just think is so helpful. Something that I think we all need to learn. And I mean, I'm no spring chicken. I've just got my senior card for getting travel on railway free in Northern Ireland. And I know that it's still a learning. Every day is a school day. And it's still important to keep learning and to be the very best version of ourselves. And I think in leadership, we have to keep learning. We have to be up to date. We have to keep learning with how we can be the best leader that our employees and the people we work with, that they deserve. You're muted.
That's great, Karen. So, you say you whatever age you are, it's never too late to learn, and you can see the value of learning. That's great. So, how different was Lead from other learning that you've done, and what were perhaps some of the challenges you had to overcome in order to say, okay, I'm going to do this, apart from the fact that we're friends and you just couldn't have said no? So.
Actually, we're friends that have never met in person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You still don't know that I'm 6'3".
No,
you know.
That's it.
I'm not, but maybe. Sorry, what was the question again?
I said, okay, so you said it's never too old to learn, and whatever age you are, and so how different was Lead from other learning that you've done in the past? Because I know you've done a master's, for instance, and sort of what were some of the challenges or fears you had to overcome in order to actually say, okay, I'm going to do this?
I think having done a master's, and obviously that's very much about receiving information. Yes, there's independent study. I think the difference with Lead and the challenge for me, particularly as an extrovert who talks a lot and has opinions on everything, I think was listening. And I think really listening well. And one of the things that I've thought about a lot since looking at Lead and trying to put this into my life, often we listen to respond. We don't listen to actually understand. And I think I've tried very hard, because I think Lead gives us the space to listen to understand. And so often in life, we just listen with our response ready on our lips. And I think with Lead, while the challenge was to listen, I think the upside was listening to understand. And I think then it's something that you bring into your everyday life. You bring it into your work, you bring it into your life, your home life, your family life. And as I said, even just using it with my daughters, and being able to sort of use the techniques. The challenge, I think, for me, and still is a challenge, is trying to word things as a question, and desperately trying not to give advice. So, and I think one of the things we learned was that a what question is always helpful. And I think for me as well, I often find that asking someone what their expectations were in a particular situation was always helpful. What are you expecting from this? What are your expectations of this particular issue? Or how do you see this being resolved? Or what would a good resolution of this particular issue be for you? So, that was a challenge. It still is a challenge, but I think it's just really, really helpful.
Yeah, and I remember facilitating you, and all those struggling with, is this the right question? Have I got the question right? And in some ways, everybody, you're a facilitator as well, and we get together once a term as facilitators so that we remember what it feels like being a participant, and it is, so although people often feel like, action learning, and I'm not sure I'm going to get this right, actually, I mean, what it sounds like you're saying is, look, just come and
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
have a go, and be willing to listen to others, and be willing to just.
I think as well, Jane, the fact that it's a set time, and that each of you gets a set time, and that the time as a facilitator, and as you know yourself, we keep very much to time. You know, everything is timed. It's something then that doesn't run on for hours. You know exactly how long it's going to be. And I think particularly when we're busy in work, that is such a helpful thing to know. This is only going to be a set amount of time, and there's going to be so much help handed out to people through it. You know, the skills that you'll use for life.
Absolutely, yeah, and thank you for that. You've been a great asset, because you just to the team. Yeah.
Sign up for Lead. It's great.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because you're a busy evangelist, you know, with lots of other responsibilities. You're on the board as our evangelist representative. Yeah. But yeah, so what you'd say is, however busy you are, it's worth making time for. Yeah.
Yes, and I think if you make time for it, it is time well spent.
Yeah.
But actually, the skills it gives you will help you in your busyness. So I think it's, you know, it'll allow you to be more productive even when you are busy. It's not something that you need to put in a cupboard and take it out now and again. It's something then that you just use naturally every day. And I think long term, it does definitely help, because I know I'm somebody, my temptation is it's easier to do it myself than to try and get someone else to do it. But when you're using this action learning, you're encouraging others to think things through. And long term, you're encouraging others to be independent. You're encouraging others to actually show initiative and to get through things together. You're facilitating that. And, you know, ultimately then hopefully working yourself out of a job.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Yeah, finally. Yeah. How can we pray for you and North Belfast Centre of Mission?
Well, I think certainly for us here in North Belfast, we're coming into what we affectionately call the silly season. We're coming towards the 12th of July. There's the parades. And I think you would need to be living under a rock if you didn't know about the fact that Stormont is not in session at the moment. We have issues with the Northern Ireland Protocol. The reason I'm mentioning that is that we are coming into a period of time when tensions are rising in the community where we work. And so we would ask for your prayers that this year, the 12th, would be peaceful. There's rumours about things happening and tensions within the community over the Northern Ireland Protocol, over the different issues that are coming out. And so we would ask that you would pray that there would be calm and that there would be peace. And then for us as a centre of mission, I think as well, I'm just back to work, having been off long term, for 5 months. So I'm just back to work the last couple of weeks, and I just ask for your prayers for my energy levels and just getting back into it and really getting back up to speed part of anything else, trying to catch up with everything. And to pray for Stephen as well, for his protection as he works with the men in the area through the community garden.
Thank you. Yes, and do check out North Belfast Centre of Mission Facebook page and the Connect base. To keep up to date if you'd like to know. So here we go. Question for me: how much time is required? It depends on how much of Lead you do. What we asked was that people commit to at least 4 weeks of learning. That's a module. And for each of those 4 weeks, we say a minimum of sort of half an hour prep and then an hour and a half actually meeting online. So is it all online? Yes. So although we are exploring making the resource available for people who have a group that want to meet in person or to do it hybrid. So a module is about 8 hours of learning over 4 weeks, and currently we run it all online, but somebody else could run it in person if they wanted. Okay, we'll continue with your questions in the chat. That was great. Thank you, Karen, because I know how busy evangelists are, and also, like you say, you just back off after some major surgery. So the big challenge for me was designing the lead content in a way that was bite-sized, flexible, could be mapped to different learning styles, and that wouldn't require more than 2 hours commitment. So, and we wanted it to be relational and enabling, accountable, and practical. So now let's hear from Beth. Hello, Beth.
Hello.
Hello. Beth, you're my desk buddy. You're also your formation lead on our initial training. So tell us a bit about that and what you feel you gain from being part of the staff pilot.
Yeah, great. So I'm Beth Burris. I'm formation lead and tutor as part of the training team with Church Army. So part of the initial training for those who want to come and feel a sense of calling as evangelists within the Anglican Church. So they train with us for 3 years, and I'm personal tutor to some of them and deliver some teaching, but also take responsibility for the formation, for the shaping and the forming that is part of that programme for those who want to grow in a sense of calling as evangelists. So that looks like skills, character, learning, spiritual practices, spirituality, discipleship, all that kind of stuff. So I took part in a staff pilot for lead, and there was 3-4 of us who did a module on collaborative leadership. So 4 sessions, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really good space to, as Karen said, to listen, to be asked good questions and to ask good questions of others. I had many of those kind of aha moments of realizing for myself rather than someone else giving me answers, getting to conclusions and light bulb going on and realizing something about my leadership which I wanted to change, or that I felt like God was asking me to kind of adjust or tweak, and then to be able to identify an action and then be accountable to the rest of the group for doing that action the next time that we met. So some really good content to go through, some practical tools, but also an environment of kind, like-minded people to learn from and learn with. So great.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, I remember you grappling with those questions. So how do you're a formation tutor. Explain to me what that is. How you see lead fitting into the formation process for our evangelists.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think about my role and what formation is, there are 2 main images that come to mind. The first is of clay, and in scripture we have the image of us being clay in the potter's hand, God being the potter, and that sense of us offering ourselves to God, of us placing ourselves in his hands and allowing him, inviting him to shape us, to mold us, to form us, to shave off some bits that shouldn't be there, to add some extra bits, and that kind of sense of being pliable and moldable is something which I really love. And I think Lead is great for that, because it's us putting ourselves in an environment where we can be challenged and shaped by God, and by God through others. So I think that's really good. That kind of, we talk about lifelong learning or continual professional development, but actually continual formation is what that is. Kind of placing ourselves into a safe, accountable environment, which, like Karen said, is time bound. There's really good structures that hold that process, and an opportunity to learn both from scripture, from theology, but also from leadership models within the business world and within other communities to learn and grow and be shaped. And the other image I often use when I think about formation is that of a trellis, that for the green shoots of life to grow, what God is growing in us and through us, we need there to be structures around that can hold it, not tightly, but just something that can the vines can kind of grow up through. And yeah, being in environments like Lead can offer some structure for that growth. Both the meetings themselves, the sessions, and the relationships that are within those Lead Action Learning groups, but also some of the practices and tools and resources that we're given as part of Lead can form part of our trellis as leaders going forward. So whether they are ways that we look at particular situations, whether they are methods that we employ in our leadership, all of that is helping to form us. And so I would encourage people, whether you are leading in the sphere of evangelism and mission, whether you're leading within the church, whether you're leading in a different environment, Lead is really good for that ongoing shaping and forming, for keeping us soft, pliable clay in the potter's hand, but also for providing some structure. So yeah.
Thank you, Beth. Yeah, and it was a great encouragement. One of the reasons that I wanted you as a tutor to do a Lead session was so that you would be able to understand and kind of how it fits in with initial training. We've designed it so that it follows on from the Evangelist Learning Framework. So it was mapped to key core competencies that we wanted to see our leaders develop, but very much embedded in it was the Evangelist Learning Framework that those who are commissioned through us would already recognise. But so, and it was lovely watching you just have some of those aha moments where you were like, oh yeah, that's why I do that. Oh, that's and I think that's the thing. Go on.
To have the space. I'm an introvert, but I'm an external processor, and so I need those environments where I can kind of verbally splurge, and then I found it so helpful, people asking me questions, that I could organize what I just splurged and start to see patterns and tendencies, and to then that it didn't stay like that either. It doesn't stay as a splurge, but actually it can then become, well, what's your route from here? What's your path out of this? What's the action that you're going to take to implement this learning from Lead? And really good, really good.
Thank you, Beth. And how can we pray for you and the team and the evangelists in training at this time?
Yeah, thank you. Very kind. It's a good time of year for us. So we're coming up to our final teaching residential of the year. Those who are training with Church Army come between 4 and 6 times a year for a teaching weekend. So we've got one of those in mid-July, and that's followed by our admitting and commissioning service. So for 4 of our evangelists in training, they're being commissioned this summer, which is a really lovely day to celebrate their journey so far, and to be excited for their future licensed commissioned ministry. So yeah, I suppose, prayer for those things, and also for the new cohort of trainees who we have joining us from September. It's a really exciting time when we get to meet them and get to know them, and start them off on their journey of learning with us. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I noticed flash up, there's a question about, is there a cost? Currently, if Church Army has covered all the development and setup costs for LEAD, and we run it online, all the resource is online. I'll show you in a minute the online portal. So that reduces the cost of actually running LEAD. We developed it for running with our staff and evangelists. So if people join one of the action learning groups that are already running, then there's not an additional cost to doing that. Where we'll talk with individuals about ministerial development grants is if they want to do the full programme, and which includes the option to do learning activities which would need marking, and to do some 360 feedback, and some coaching. Yeah, so as a basic, just join a module or join us to just for the action learning groups to be part of a learning community. Then there aren't any costs. If you wanted us to train and run LEAD within a diocese, then we discuss individually about cost. So thank you, Beth. Right. So yes, so the good news is you don't have to be a Church Army evangelist in order to access LEAD. So let's take a look. I was talking about the online portal. Will, can we get the online portal up so you can see how we've designed it? So if you sign up to LEAD, you can see you'll get access to this. So on the main website, you just see this until you ask for a login. So you get in touch with us, we find out a bit about you, and once you're signed up to LEAD and we've had that conversation, then you get, each of the modules has an introduction. There's four sessions, each with different topics. Each of those topics each week, so if we have a look at a weekly briefing, you can see they follow the same format, mapped to different learning styles. So there'll always be the aims and outcomes for the session. There'll be an introduction with a short video. So if you're having a busy week, the bare minimum you could do is watch a 3.5 minute video, get a sense of, and blag the rest. You get out of LEAD what you put into it, really. So there's always an action, there's always a biblical reflection, case study, and then dig deeper for those that want more content, plus loads of extra resources, information. So you, as Kinder was saying, you don't need to read all of that every week. It's there. Once you've got access, then it's yours. We'll always remind you about the follow-up questions to, help you prepare for your action learning group. And the beauty, as I say, is that it's there then as a resource that you can access information about books, to signpost you to perhaps other learning if you get really inspired by a subject. At the moment there's just 5, but again we will look at developing other modules, but if you want to book a one-to-one chat, you can do that through the website. To find out more, you can sign up, as I've said. If you want to experience what being part of a LEAD action learning group feels like, there's still a few dates left for our lead bite-sized 2-hour taster sessions. We've been running those through May. So here we go. You can sign up here. We may offer more dates in early September because we realise it's holiday season. So yeah, but feel free to sign up. We'd love you, to explore being part of Lead. If you want to keep in touch, again, follow us on Facebook or on Twitter at Learn From Lead, and or email me at lead@churcharmy.org and I will get in touch with you. But yes, Karen and Beth, let's have you back. Thank you for your contributions. I really thank you and grateful. So do pray for them and their work, and we really look forward to you starting your lead journey.
Thank you.
Thanks
very much. Bye everyone.
Bye everyone.